Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased obviously to try to summarise and distill some of the wisdom of this Congress and present it to you. I don't pretend to be comprehensive because there have been long discussions and we've heard an account of those today that already, even in a brief space, took almost 1 hour to listen to. Can I begin by agreeing with you, Mr. Chairman, that for the debate part, the question and answer part, which I happily was able to attend, I thought this was really an exceptionally good session, and I thank our three guests for bringing their insight, but also their honesty and conviction to the table. My apologies to each one of you that I missed your speech, but that was not discourtesy but duty, because I needed a bit of time to try to synthesize our work. I should say, those of you who were at the dinner last night would have heard my remarks about the Minister from the Netherlands who was speaking from his heart. So I do speak from my heart, but I will be assisted by my own notes on this occasion and will not tear them up immediately. Firstly, on behalf of the European Movement International, I want again to thank TUSEV for the wonderful partnership and organisational skills which they have shown here and which we deeply appreciate. I also want again to thank all of our other partners and sponsors, but mostly to thank all of you who have participated, the chairman of sessions, the moderators, the rapporteurs who took the notes of the sessions, and all of you for your very active participation, and not just here this morning in the question and answer, but for your attendance and indeed for your comments throughout the workshops over these past 2 days. I think the exercise has been a successful exercise, and as I said to you, my summary and concluding remark is an attempt to synthesize some key observations, but not to presume that I get everything done. Now, what I decided to do in terms of trying to summarize is to talk to you. I opened with 4 S's from Ljubljana, so a little peg to hang my thoughts on. I want to close today with 4 P's. The first is about public purpose. The second is about progress made. The third is about payments and funding. And the fourth is about process. So the 4 P's. Before I get to those, let me locate my remarks by recalling some of the remarks in particular of Commissioner Füle, who opened our session yesterday. He remarked that this is our conviction in European Movement, that the active engagement of civil society in participatory democracy is a key element of good governance. That's why we're here as a civil society organisation in dialogue with parliamentarians, in dialogue with the European Commission, and in dialogue with the Turkish government as one of our host partners. He also said that for civil society organisations, with participation comes responsibility. So it is a balance, participation and responsibility. And that the responsibility requires of civil society organisations that they genuinely reflect public opinion and public needs. In other words, that the responsibility must be matched by credibility. And I think it is an important headline point for us to retain. He also addressed public authorities, and he said public authorities and government have to safeguard the right of civil society to express divergent views. So civil society has its responsibilities, but public authority have their responsibilities to safeguard the expression, the free expression of diverse views. In short, I believe the Commissioner made a call to develop a new sense of cooperation, not competition, based on principles acceptable broadly to the wider population. A point I made in my opening remarks: an active civil society and active citizens in a society are complementary to and add value to representative democracy. It is not the job of civil society to replace or displace representative democracy, but working together, they can give and take to and from each other additional capacities to act and to deliver. So let me come to my first P in synthesizing some of our work: civil society and public purpose. Civil society organisations here and more widely are diverse in size, in subject matter which they address, and in scale. They range from foundations to non-governmental organisations to civil society organisations, and I know the definitional areas can be blurred, but we tend to recognise one from the other when we see it, even if we find it a bit difficult to define precisely. Civil society organisations ideally should be based on vision and values, on convictions, and in response to genuine needs. They should represent and incarnate a willingness and a capacity to act. These values, the vision, the convictions, people's real needs, the willingness and capacity to act, these are the motor force of civil society. Funding is a fuel, but the fuel is not the force. The life force of civil society is based on values, conviction, and delivery, assisted by the fuel of funding, but not to be dominated by the fuel of funding. For those involved, and here I talk of the individuals, I think it's very important to appreciate that an engagement with civil society, even if personally it's a long-term engagement, is not in any conventional sense a career. It is instead a vocation. It is a call to service, but not a call to careerism. And if there's anyone running an agency of civil society whose essential private purpose is careerist, they're in the wrong job in my view. Because civil society and its funding is not there to facilitate the career objectives of individuals. It is there to assist the vocation of public service. And so those elements are part of the value set, I think, that people bring. In this sense, civil society is a facilitator, an animator, a driver, an advocate, a deliverer, a voice for reform, and all of that is not an end in itself, but as a vocation of public service. And that, to me, from listening to the various elements today and what I heard yesterday, distills out, I think, what we've been talking about in terms of the public purpose of civil society. Let me come next to the second P, progress. I've been heartened to find here a general sentiment that in recent years change is visible and is positive. It's not complete, it's an evolutionary process, but it has been a positive evolution. There are now, throughout the region, whether in Turkey or Western Balkans, growing numbers of new legal frameworks on association and specific rules, regulations, laws and procedures, occasionally even agencies, to assist the emergence of civil society. And this is to be welcomed. The Regional Cooperation Council in particular in the Western Balkans is a very interesting example to do with its websites, to do with its database, to do in terms of wider contacts and connections for regional civil society with the outside, and a good example of good practice, and an area where I think we need to go back and dip a bit more into their goodwill and capacity to do some more things together. Certainly, the progress is very much on a learning by doing basis. And it's very much based on people-to-people contacts. And hence the real value of something like the past 2 days. The more we can meet together in common cause and common public purpose to understand good practice or to share best practice, the more we can contribute in our different ways to the issues and the themes to which we've dedicated ourselves.